And good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute at Ardmore, Oklahoma. By the way, I was just noticing this morning. Do you realize I have produced 2,900 plus videos? That's a lot of information out there for you to be able to go to study totally free of charge. I've covered a lot of topics. Lord willing, I'll cover some more topics. And so it's one of those type of things. I have said this many, many times in conversations with friends. Uh, and by the way, my subscriptions of people are up to working toward 8,000 subscribers. And I understand that's not viral. That's, I would really love to have 1 million subscribers because the truth that we are presenting here on this channel really, really, really needs to be understood. It's distressing to me, I must confess, when you have people producing videos of cats. I love cats, mind you, but you have people producing videos of cats playing around the house and they get millions of views. Seriously? And yet, here, where we are presenting the truth, eternal truths that can impact the world that we live in a very, very positive way, we get 1,000 views in over a period of a week or two, maybe 2 weeks. So it's it's a little distressing in that regard, but the Lord never promised, contrary to what some believe, the Lord never promised that the message was going to simply take over the world. The Lord never promised that people were going to lay aside their frivolity, their enjoyment of entertainment, and their priorities of personal satisfaction in order to concentrate on eternal things. Yeah, no. The natural man cannot receive the things of God, neither will he receive them because they're foolishness to him. See, it's all in the mindset. You have to be you have to be interested in eternal things to appreciate what's being said and done. All right. Hey, listen, I just have to express my appreciation to you for the fantastic response to my brand spanking new book, Resurrection Feast, fulfilled for the rest of this month. I mean, here we are. It's November the 5th as I produce this video today. And for the rest of this month, November 2023, US orders only. Okay. You're going to save well over $10 by going to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com, and clicking the link up at the top and ordering this book. This is an in-depth study of Israel's last feast day, Sukkot, and the resurrection of the dead doctrine found in, for instance, 1 Corinthians 15 and 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, etc. This is, to my knowledge, and look, there are lots of books out there on the feast days. I just ordered and just received a book on Israel's feast days and the second coming. Dispensationalist who says we're still looking for the fulfillment of all of the feast days. No, we're not. Not at all. To my knowledge, this book that I have produced is the only preterist book on the feast days and their application to the events of the first century, to the doctrine of the resurrection of the dead. It's truly unique in that regard. So, take advantage of the special introductory offer. Now then, here we are on Monday. We're doing a recapitulation, if you please, of what we have seen more in depth in our study of the Olivet Discourse. And last week, I shared with you that Jesus in Matthew chapter 24 gave a couple of signs of the impending end of the age. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, the apostles asked about the end of the age. They were not asking about the end of the Christian age, which has no end. They were not asking about the end of time. N.T. Wright argues very effectively, in my view, and not only Wright, but France and a host of other scholars, that the Jews never believed that the time-space continuum was ever going to end. So that raises a very serious question, does it not? If the Jews literally did not believe in an end of time, the destruction of material creation, then why would the apostles be asking about such a thing? So, the apostles were asking about the end of the age that was associated, that was represented by the temple. Talked about that last week. The end of what age? You know, folks, once we answer that question properly, definitively, biblically, then all claims that Matthew chapter 24 is about the end of time, the end of the Christian age, just simply disappear, into the air. That's not what the apostles were concerned about. So Jesus gave signs to indicate the coming end of the age that was linked to the temple at Jerusalem. The completion of the Great Commission, we've talked about that a good bit. The Abomination of Desolation. Now, I want to share something with you here that is really, really exciting to me, and it's pretty definitive. Daniel chapter 9 predicted the coming of the Abomination of Desolation and said it would be set up in the temple in Jerusalem. And Daniel 9 is confined to a period of 70 weeks. I'm not going to talk about the beginning of it. The only thing I'm concerned about at this particular point is when would the 70 weeks end? Well, I was recently privileged to give a presentation in Huntsville, Texas, on Daniel 9, the 70 weeks, the Septuagint, and the end of the 70 weeks. Here's a thumbnail sketch. Daniel 9 was told 70 weeks are determined upon your people and on your holy city. And among other things that were determined was to fill up or to fill the measure of sin. I want to suggest to you something. To me, this is very, very, very powerful, so I hope you catch the power of it. The Abomination of Desolation, the linguistics, literally mean the abomination that brings or that causes definition. Well, what's an abomination? It's sin. That means that the abomination should be placed within a discussion within the confines of Israel's sin. Israel's abominable sin. Israel's sin that would fill up the measure of her sin, bringing about and causing the desolation. Do you follow me here? Jesus is giving a sign of the end of the age. So ask yourself a question. If it's true that the abomination of desolation, literally meaning the abomination that brings desolation, if that should be confined to a discussion of Israel's sin and filling up the measure of her sin, bringing about the desolation of the temple, then it's simply inappropriate to say that, well, the abomination of desolation is in our future, but it has nothing to do with covenantal wrath on Israel. Thomas Ice tries to make Israel out to be the, how should I express this? To be the innocent partner or innocent victim of the abomination. He says the abomination is set up by the man of sin. I know that's a popular view. I don't think it has any merit. Now, abomination that brings desolation, and I would highly recommend you get the book by Brant Petrie entitled Jesus, Tribulation, and the End of Exile. Fantastic book. Do I agree with every single thing there? No. But overall, it is an incredibly wonderful book. Brent Petrie points out that in Daniel 9 and in other places as well, an abomination is sin that would bring about the destruction of Jerusalem. So are we supposed to believe that the abomination of desolation would be a sin on the part of pagans that would bring the destruction of Jerusalem? No, ladies and gentlemen, it was Israel's sin that caused the destruction. This is the critical point. The Romans were simply God's instrument of wrath upon Israel for Israel's abominations. And again, let me say this. Once we see the abomination of desolation within the confines, within the parameters of Israel's sin leading to the destruction of Jerusalem, this in many ways completely destroys dispensationalism. Because once again, men like Thomas Ice make Israel out to be the innocent victim in their proposed future rapture and 7-year tribulation period. You see, Israel was never the object of wrath by the part of the nations unless she was in violation of Torah. Do you catch that? In Exodus chapter 23, or 34, 23 and 24, the Lord made a promise that as long as Israel was observing Torah, keeping the law, being obedient to the law, her enemies would never attack her during her feast days. Well, guess what? Jerusalem was destroyed in 586 BC during the feast days. Why? Well, all you got to do is read Jeremiah and find out that she was innocent of shedding innocent blood. That was her abominable actions that led to the destruction of Jerusalem. In Psalms 40, verse 10 through 12, the psalmist said, "By this I know that you are well pleased with me when my enemies do not triumph over me." You see, Israel and covenant and peace and war are all inextricably bound up. Now, this brings up what happened in October the 7th, 2023. Hamas invaded Israel, what? During one of her greatest feast days. Now, undoubtedly, the dispensationalists, if and when Israel triumphs over Hamas, and the way they're destroying her Hamas right now is incredible. So what's going to happen? The dispensationalists are going to say, see, this proves God is with Israel. No, it doesn't. God said, you keep my law. You obey Torah, and your enemies will not invade. But Hamas invaded Israel during the feast days. You need to get a copy of my book, Israel 1948, Countdown to Nowhere. Just go to my bookstore, type in Israel 1948, order the books. Very inexpensive. I wish I could offer free shipping. I just can't do it. But I'm going to tell you, you will see that the dispensational narrative, the dispensational storyline about the abomination of desolation, the desolation, the invasion of Israel on October the 7th has nothing whatsoever to do with the fulfillment of prophecy. Now, very quickly, Daniel 9, the appointed time, the Septuagint, and the end of the 70 weeks. Daniel was told 70 weeks are determined upon your people and on your holy city to finish the transgression, to fill up the measure of sin. By sinning, by bringing the measure of her sin to its fullness. In the Septuagint, the Brenton version, 1990, very, very powerful. At the consummation of the appointed time. What's the appointed time in Daniel 9:24? The 70 weeks. Okay. At the consummation of the appointed time. This is Suntelia Kairu. Suntelia means consummation. Kairu is divinely appointed time. The 70 weeks were the divinely appointed time. Now watch this. At the consummation of the time, an end shall be brought to the desolations. So the consummation, the end of the 70 weeks, had to occur during the time in which Jerusalem was being desolated. You catch the power of that? The end of the 70 weeks, therefore, was not in AD 34 or 35, as many postmillennialists suggest, even as some preterists affirm. No. The end of the appointed time had to be at the time in which Jerusalem was still being desolated. And since Jesus and the New Testament writers put the abomination of desolation in the first century, Matthew 24, verse 34, that means that the end of the 70 weeks was during the time of the destruction of Jerusalem. So the sign, when Jesus said, when you see all these things begin to take place, know that it is near. It what? The kingdom. The end of the age. And that included the end of the 70 weeks. The apostles were going, in the first century generation, were going to witness the end of the 70 weeks. That has profound implications for our understanding of eschatology. But I'm out of time. So I'll see you on the flip side.